My name's Jonas Newman. You're at our farm here in Prince Edward County, the Hinterland Winery. We bought the farm in 2003 and started making wines in 2007. And we've been making sparkling wine exclusively since 2008 here. The original farm was 100 acres, and we watched it for a year, and we planted 7 acres in 2005. We planted it to Pinot Noir and Chardonnay exclusively. And then in 2006, we bought the farm that we're standing in now, and we planted that to Riesling, Pinot Gris, and Chardonnay in 2006. Here in the county, we have a very specific climate. This year notwithstanding, generally speaking, the winters get very cold. And so we do something unique here that's not done anywhere else in the world that I'm aware of. We bury the vines, so we select the best parts of the vine that we want to use for the following vintage, and we put them under dirt, and the dirt creates an insulator, and the vines are able to survive through the winter, where otherwise, if you were just to leave them bare to the open air, they would most certainly die. We were fortunate in that in our first year that we weren't always destined to make sparkling wine. It was in our brain that we were going to make some Pinot Noir and some Chardonnay, and we just found after watching a few seasons that we were only going to make sparkling, and thankfully we had Pinot and Chardonnay in the vineyard. The only grape that we don't have in the vineyard that they would traditionally use in Champagne is Meunier, Pinot Meunier. And we don't have any of that, but we're able to make blends of Pinot and Chard. The rosé tends to be Pinot heavy, obviously, and then we make a cuvée that's basically 50-50 in most years, and then we make another wine that is exclusively Chardonnay, a Blanc de Blanc. We make all kinds of different sparkling wines. Certainly traditional methods are the sort of hallmark of what we do. It's certainly what we lead with. But we also are making Charmat style wines with more aromatic varietals like Riesling and Pinot Gris. We get some Gamay from some spectacular vineyards around, not planted on our farm, but we get some really great Gamay. And we make it in 3 different styles. We make traditional method, of course. We make Charmat, which is the way that Prosecco is made. We make Ancestral as well, which is a single fermentation sparkling wine that is also made from Gamay. For us, our vineyards, our varietals, and our training, sparkling was a natural path for us to go down. There's a lot of people making super exceptional Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in the county, and we just decided that once we went down that road that we really wanted to specialize, we really wanted to learn, and we really wanted to make great wine every year as best as we could. So. And once we started buying equipment and getting set up to do sparkling wine, we just thought it was silly for us to even bother making Pinot Noir. I mean, it's a tiny winery. We make 5,000 cases a year, and so to sort of confuse the portfolio with a little bit of Pinot or a little bit of Chardonnay didn't make a lot of sense to us. If I want to drink great Chardonnay and great Pinot Noir, I have my neighbors around here that have that for us, and we can go get it. And thankfully, they don't make sparkling in a lot of cases, and so we're able to work out a pretty good trade. It's a bit of a cliche at the moment, but I think, like a lot of cliches, it's somewhat true in that we're very much a hands-off winery. We don't do a lot to the wine once it arrives in the winery. We're very gentle in our processing. There's not a lot of additions. There's not a lot of things that we put in the wine. And we're starting to implement that philosophy out in the vineyard as well. As time goes on, we're trying very hard to sort of be a little less interventionist in the vineyard. I can't say that we're organic because we're not officially organic, but we implement one organic practice a year into the vineyard and hope that, someday that it's 100% organic and that we're able to go for our status. I think that every time you add something, you take something away. I think the goal here, again, a bit of a cliche, but the goal here is to grow the nicest fruit possible. So we approach the winery in a sort of farm first philosophy, in that if we spend the proper time in the vineyard and we don't lose track of it, we certainly don't want to ever think that because we're having a strong vintage that somehow we can lose sight of the end goal, because sometimes August, the growing season August can come up and grab you. We pay attention all the way through the season, and we're generally harvesting nice, clean fruit with really good winemaking numbers. In Champagne, you're allowed to add acidity, or you're allowed to add sugar, And so far since 2008 or since 2007, we've had to add neither. We bring in really nice balanced fruit to make sparkling wine, and that's what we're trying to achieve in the vineyard. If it arrives in the winery in that state, there's not a lot of things that we have to do. We essentially have to ferment it and then we rack it, and then we clean up it, and then we do a secondary fermentation and age it. We're not in there with all kinds of sort of there's a book you can get, and in that book it's really thick, and it's a book of all the things that you can put into wine, and thankfully we don't have to use it very often. You know what, we're always learning. You know, my favorite wine's always the most recent one, and particularly in the traditional method category, because we're always kind of trying little new things. We're using a lot more wood in the winery than we would before, so a lot more barrels. Traditionally earlier we were just, well, traditionally for us anyway, we were just stainless steel. And I really like what wood is doing to our wines in terms of giving it a roundness and a richness. We're thinking about getting some larger format wood fermenters, things like that, just, you know, tweaking it every time. Look, you know, the county is a 12-year-old wine region. And I think that any winemaker who think they've got it figured out and has sort of stopped learning and stopped trying stuff is dangerous. And you know, I'm hoping that sort of at the end of my winemaking career that I have a document or a library of wines that we've made over the years, and we can see how we've progressed in the winery and see how we've progressed in the vineyard, and see if we can find something that's very specific to our farm. Certainly with the traditional methods, the grapes we put in those wines are only from our farm. We don't use any outside grapes from other vineyards in the county or Niagara or otherwise, and it's because we want a snapshot on my deathbed of what we did here, and some sort of library that hopefully my kids can carry on and use as a benchmark for what we can do in the future. Maybe against our better judgment, but we opened up a brewery. It's 9 feet away. It's right on the same property, and it's with the same philosophy and same approaches as we are with wine. A very farm-first approach to brewing. Put in a little restaurant with a really great chef. It's a farm. When you come, expect to come to a farm, and that's really what we want for ourselves and what we want for people who come here. We're open all year. We're open all the time. We're always happy to have you. Generally speaking, Vicky or myself are around. You know, there'll always be an owner on site to welcome you. And you know, if you give us a nudge and we're not too busy, we're happy to take you around the winery and show you what we do and tell you what we think we know.